let's make a movie about him because let's feel bad for him, the victim. No, if you're making a movie about Citizen Kane, you don't do that. You don't make it about Mank.
Come on.
Let's jump right into this. This is a serious topic here because I'm really disappointed. I am heartbroken, you could say. There's a movie. Now I'm hoping the people watching this, they've heard of it. It's called Mank. Mank, like Hank or something, right?
Yep.
Who names a movie Mank? Who does that? Who thought that was a good idea?
Isn't that his name?
No. His name is Mankiewicz, dude.
Yeah.
They called it Mank. I don't want to see a movie called Mank. Every time I even tell somebody about this movie, I feel embarrassed because I'm like, hey, did you see Mank? And they look at me like I'm like some weirdo, like crazy. Mank? What is Mank?
Yeah.
The heck? Who wants to watch a movie called Mank? Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's get into this.
It wasn't good.
I'm very disappointed.
We should, what do you want? You want to start with the positives or the negatives?
Let's start with the background, right?
Okay. Behind the movie.
I was told about this film by my friend Rakesh, who's creating the show with us. And he's created everything I've done in the last 2 years, pretty much. We worked together. And he told me there's a movie called Mank, and it's about the making of Citizen Kane, which as a hipster film
buff.
Citizen Kane is like the OG, man. And that's one of my favorite movies, you know? And that was one of the movies that began my obsession with filmmaking. And because, you know, Spielberg would talk about it, and Scorsese and Kubrick, and they all talked about this movie, that it's the greatest film of all time. And when I got to see it, I remember renting it at the video store on DVD, and I watched it, and it blew my mind. Mainly, it's created by a director who is 26, right? Orson Welles. So that began a long obsession of mine with Orson Welles, my favorite director. I even made like a documentary about Orson Welles. I interviewed people that knew him, interviewed people that were historians. I entered into a contest. I was obsessed with Orson Welles. He's all I thought about for like 2 years.
Longer than that.
It's kind of bizarre. Yeah, very bizarre, but it's true. So naturally, when I hear there's a movie called Mank, and it's about Citizen Kane, which we should explain. Mank is
the screenwriter, co-screenwriter.
Mankiewicz, Herman J. Mankiewicz, right? The screenwriter of Citizen Kane, co-screenwriter, I should add. That's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So I was very excited to see a movie also directed by David Fincher, who he's directed Gone Girl,
Social Network, Fight Club, Seven, a lot of other movies.
Yeah. So I was very excited to see it. Let's just say that.
It wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Like, there are things about it that I like, but yeah, I mean, do you want to start with the positives or the negatives? Maybe we should start with positive.
Let's start on a bright, happy note here. Let's switch into this.
So on a positive note, it looks okay. It doesn't look bad. Like,
looks okay.
He's trying to make a style with, you know, David Fincher's not trying to make it look like an old movie. He's like trying to tribute to that style while still making it his own style, which I noticed. Or most of the actors are fine. They're not like, oh my gosh, this is laughably bad. Like, most of their performances, like, they're all trying.
Yeah, well, I really liked.
I liked most of the performances.
I really liked Marion Davies, actress. I don't know her name, but she was very good. And Gary Oldman, right?
He was all right. He was trying. Yeah, we said he sounded like Winnie the Pooh.
He sounded like Winnie the Pooh, guys. He literally.
Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. Yeah, and just the movie, to me, got really boring because it's like the same setup for each scene. It's like, you know, he's drunk, you know, he's flirting with a girl, he talks to a studio, and then he talks to Orson Welles on the phone. And it's that over and over and over again until the movie ends.
Yeah.
Nothing happens.
And like the movie,
happens.
we're not really like film critics here. As you know, obviously we criticize movies a lot, but we're not like, that's not, I don't know, at least with me, that's not one of my skills. So it's hard for me to be like, oh, well, you know, they should have restructured this. Like I don't even want to spend enough time thinking about it because the film itself is okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not
bad.
But,
and you know, David Fincher, the guy's respectable. He pays a lot of attention to details. So that's not really the problem. Even visually, I don't know what you thought about the black and white. I know you.
I wasn't a big fan of it because it was digital and it was very obviously digital. But I mean, that's not a bad thing necessarily. Like I said, it was clear that he was trying to make his own style. He wasn't just trying to make Citizen Kane again. Like he was. So I respect that aspect to it. And the movie did have something to say too. Like it had like comments on like
don't do drugs. Don't be an alcoholic.
Yeah. Don't be an alcoholic.
Don't be depressed.
Or like, yeah, even like how Hollywood, even at that time, like a lot of movies, when they look back at old Hollywood, they always look at it at this like nostalgic, like heavenly like way. But they showed that like they were like jerks even then.
Yeah.
Majority of people in Hollywood.
It was the best. The best films were made back then. And people didn't just do reruns or sequels. But really, when you look at it, Hollywood was always just pushing out stuff.
Yeah, they were always kind of sellouts and is jerks.
Why Citizen Kane is such a remarkable piece of film. And everybody should watch that film. I honestly believe that. Everybody should watch Citizen Kane. And there are a lot of people that critique it and they say, oh, that film is overrated or it's not, it's boring. I mean, those people, look, they get on my nerves because it's ridiculous. Like I said, Orson Welles was 26. He was even younger, 24, when he started working on that film, which is like only a few years older than us. It's mind-blowing. And he made a film that is so resonant and it's deep. It's a deep film. It's about a man's life. He captures an entire man's life in one story. Citizen Kane is based off, this is touched in Mank. And it's interesting to kind of see it from his perspective, how he got to know the real William Randolph Hearst, who was a newspaper tycoon. He was kind of like the Bill Gates of his era. He owned a castle. He had a zoo. He was very notorious in the media and very powerful. So William Randolph Hearst was the inspiration. Also, the movie showed, interestingly, that that Louis B. Mayer was also an inspiration, right? Yes. For Citizen Kane, for Charles Foster Kane, a fictional character. So the movie did a good job in some ways because it gave like a new perspective of how the film came to be. Because it is true that Herman J. Mankiewicz, he knew those people and he brought this unique perspective to the film. There are three different things here that we need to talk about. Okay. Here are the three things. Citizen Kane, the movie, right? The genius of the film, and Orson Welles working on the film. Then there is the controversy of who wrote the script, right? And lastly, you have the Mank, this movie that sucks. Okay. So Mank tries to do this. Basically, the reason why I'm so disappointed, to get to the meat of it so everybody knows, Mank does not do justice to Orson Welles, and it tells a story that is not true. And it's biased against Orson Welles, which is a common theme. It seemed like it. Yeah. It's a very common theme throughout media to portray him as this angry, authoritarian dictator, right? A little background on Orson Welles. Let's see. This guy. Okay. Should we give some background?
Yeah, sure. I mean, he was a theatrical actor.
Yeah.
He became famous for doing a radio show of War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
You could talk about
that. Many people know the War of the Worlds story that in the 1930s, Orson Welles recreated War of the Worlds, but he thought of, because he had a Mercury Theater Company, that's what it was named, and they did radio shows, also theater, but the radio shows were very popular, and one broadcast, he adapted War of the Worlds, the book, to the radio.
audiobooks before audiobooks.
Yeah, exactly. So people heard the radio book and they well, it wasn't a book though. He adapted it as if it was really happening in real time. And it's really good. It's worth watching. Like it's on YouTube for free.
Listening.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, listening because it's radio. Worth listening to. And you get basically people thought it was real. And supposedly some people killed themselves. I don't know if that's true. But definitely people were like freaking out. They were leaving the cities. And it did cause some sort of chaos. Historians debate about how much. But I think even that, they're like, it actually wasn't that big of a deal. Well, it was big enough to be a nationwide story. Also, in the movie Mank, they touch on Orson Welles and his theater company adapting Macbeth, but they turned it into Voodoo Macbeth. Mm-hmm. And he also adapted, I want to say, Julius Caesar into like a Nazi criticism, like a criticism of Nazis. So he did a lot of daring projects in this era when he was only like 19, 20, early 20s, and he became a nationwide known actor. So Mank kind of touches on that, not really, because he's not the main character, which is what we're going to get to. Now, what happened was Orson Welles was given the once in a lifetime carte blanche contract to direct a film. A guy who never directed a feature film ever, only made like one little short film with a cheap camera. And here he's given by RKO, a struggling movie studio, the opportunity to direct really 3 feature films, but 1 feature film with access to Final Cut, which even Final Cut, most directors would not get that. Even nowadays, they don't get that until they've been at a studio for decades. They gave him like a couple $1 million budget and really free reign to do anything. The idea was basically what we've been talking about. It's almost like Disney. If Disney started struggling because of how many times they're releasing Marvel films and Star Wars, and they say, look, we're struggling and nobody's watching this anymore. Disney's the worst example because they're the most successful. But let's just say that happened. And then they saw this guy that's like, oh, this guy's famous. He did some crazy stuff. Let's just have him direct a movie and see what happens.
See what happens.
It was like a Hail Mary.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It's a successful movie.
Well, successful in some ways.
It was definitely successful.
Financially, not so much.
It didn't make its money back?
I think it did, but it was not what they wanted. I think it did make some money back, but it was not a huge success. It may have bombed a little, like it was not what they expected, Long story short, the movie criticized William Randolph Hearst so much that he basically went on because he owned the newspapers, he destroyed Orson Welles' reputation. And he wrote a lot of articles. There's one story that Orson Welles was going to his hotel room, and I forgot who, but somebody told him, don't go there. And it turned out that they had like an underage girl and a bunch of cameramen set up for him for when he walked in the room. One of several stories, right? That they were really trying to get this guy. You don't mess with the most powerful man in the world. It even in Citizen Kane, they talk about how Charles Foster Kane, but William Randolph Hearst in real life almost are potentially the cause of the Spanish-American War because of the media. And we see that now. The media is the message. The media can dominate. Mm-hmm. That's one of the most amazing things about the film that it comments on.
Yeah, that's so true. Mank doesn't do it justice because it looks, like you said, it looks as Orson Welles as like this villain kind of thing. And like Mank is this, innocent bystander, I guess, which is the biggest problem with the movie that I had. And the movie, it doesn't like you said, like it tells it in a different perspective. I didn't know a whole lot about Herman Mankiewicz. So I guess, in that aspect of it, it was good. But like you're saying, it doesn't do Orson Welles justice. It makes it look like he didn't do anything, basically. Like, and that, Mankiewicz did all the work, and then Orson Welles just got mad and had disagreements, and at the end, Mank won. That's what they make it look like. And then, he got his Oscar or whatever, and, he succeeded against him. But it's like, is that really how it was like, or is it just based off of that one book, that you should talk about?
Yeah. So Pauline Kael, and those are all good points. Pauline Kael was a film critic, very famous and popular film critic. She released a book. I'm forgetting the name, but it's something like the Kane Mutiny or some, I don't know, some name like that. Citizen Kane, something. The book, right here, check the comments below, in the description. So the book was notorious. It became famous among film buffs because it accused Orson Welles of stealing the whole script and basically taking the credit for himself and wanting to get rid of Herman J. Mankiewicz. And they had this secretary who informed Pauline Kael about how Orson Welles was really not involved with the script, and she wrote everything, and she has no idea. He stole it all because she wrote the whole script. She was sitting there typing it up for Herman, and that's in the movie. Her character was lame.
She was boring.
Very undeveloped. But anyways, and so this book basically was another ding in Orson Welles' reputation. And one of the things that happened was Peter Bogdanovich, director of Last Picture Show, he came out against this book. He was a good friend of Orson Welles, and he helped him with The Other Side of the Wind, which was released on Netflix. And he was a very close friend, and he came out, first of all, saying that this book is a joke, and he gave really convincing evidence. And he even brought in a professor who was involved, was going to be, I think it was a professor that was going to be interviewed by Pauline Kael, and she never even took him up. And it turned out that it was because he didn't fit the narrative. And there was some kind of, from when I did research on this, it's been years, but there was some kind of bias against Welles. And basically, the problem with Mank, the heart of the issue is that it takes this story, this thing that's been debated for a long time, and it basically says, screw the truth, screw what really happened, and we want to tell another victim story about some victim who gets drunk and
flirts with women.
Yeah, and
that's it.
Kind of doesn't, doesn't accomplish much. And let's make a movie about him because let's feel bad for him, the victim. No, if you're making a movie about Citizen Kane, you don't do that. You don't make it about Mank.
I texted you. I was like, literally anybody else who was involved in the making of Citizen Kane would have been more interesting than Mank.
Yeah, I keep saying it's like if I made a movie about Michael Jackson and I instead was like, I'm just going to make it about the girl in the Thriller video.
The terrible actress.
Yeah, the worst actress. She's watching this, right? No, yeah. She's, or it's like I'm going to make a movie about, what's another example?
I don't know. There's a ton of examples. It's like
Star Wars, but instead we're just going to make it about like Harrison Ford's makeup artist or something. Like, who cares, dude? Who cares about Mank? Like, yes, the guy helped write one of the greatest scripts of the best films ever.
Yeah, and without Mank, Citizen Kane wouldn't exist. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, it was definitely more Orson Welles with the way that he, even the video that I showed you where, he talks about how this, the script was like so like drawn out and long, and like, Orson Welles took all the scenes that he liked and then he developed it into what they are.
Yeah, and that's the hardest. He wrote a lot of the film, and the film is autobiographical in many ways. Like Charles Foster Kane is very similar to Orson Welles, even as a person and his personality. And that's the brilliant thing about the film, that the depth that this young man had about himself, about the world, about how a billionaire feels and lives a life? How does a young man that grew up in Wisconsin and basically has been involved with theater, but how does he know about like what a billionaire, the kind of experience that it would be like to be like this isolated old man grappling with death and loneliness? Like that's a very deep, weighty concept. And Mankiewicz helped because Mankiewicz was a lonely man.
Yeah, he was a lonely
was
man.
grappling with, death and his self-destructive nature. But Orson Welles was able to take that and turn it into Citizen Kane. And
add himself into that story. Like, without him, like Citizen Kane wouldn't be what it is, with Orson Welles. Like,
it would have never existed because the film itself was a risk, and it was one of those miracles that a studio let that happen. And it shows what happens when a studio decides to take a risk and give a chance to an artist, because Orson Welles did not make films, and I think that's one of the best things about it. He would always say, because Gregg Toland, the cinematographer, taught him everything. There was this famous meeting, basically, that it's like with Walt Disney. Every time there's a famous meeting, only famous with me. It's good. That there's this meeting where there's this famous meeting where they spend all day. We have to like intercut the Walt Disney one. They spent all day
acting out every single scene.
Okay. Orson Welles, Gregg Toland taught Orson Welles everything about film in like 2 days. He taught him how the camera works. He taught him how iris and ISO. He taught him everything about film and lighting,
framing, all that stuff.
Then he taught him, and Orson Welles stuck with that. He said you could learn everything you need in 6 hours. He's like, but the hard part is learning the art. And that's why that movie's so amazing, because he has this in-depth touch with like the art.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he didn't need to have all the skills or that. He had the heart. He had something to say, which is what you need to make a good film. You don't need to have all this access to amazing equipment, because like there are movies that have amazing equipment that suck. So most movies. So it's not about how, your access to equipment. It's about what you can do with what you have. And like, do you have something to say? Do you have talent? And that's, Orson Welles had that. He was like, that's why directors like Spielberg and even, Lucas, all of them talk about him, because he was like the first, like the best example of like a young person who got the opportunity to like make a great movie. And he had the budget, and he had the access to material, and like you said, it was like one of the first risks like that. And of course, in the 70s, that happened a lot. And so they all looked towards Orson Welles as an example.
Like Scorsese or Coppola or De Palma, Lucas, Spielberg, like all of what do they call them? The film brats or something. They have a name for them. That
the new age of Hollywood.
The new age, that they were in a similar situation, and that's where you get this like golden era of film. And Orson Welles was an example of that. And the guy, he was difficult to work with. Right?
There's no denying that.
Show me a genius that isn't crazy. Kanye West.
Kanye West.
No, that's a quote from a song.
It's true though. I mean, there's no doubt that like he seemed like everybody who's worked with him said that he was difficult to work with. Even De Palma made a movie with him, starring in it. He said he was like purposely not remembering his lines.
Yeah, he's kind of like a Marlon Brando. But not as successful financially.
Yeah, like you said, every genius has their weird.
Well, I think what I was getting at, yes, okay, he was, but the guy was actually, when you like read about the people that were loyal to him, because that was the main thing. Most people were not loyal to him. And so he was extremely dedicated to the film. The craft, right?
Yeah, I agree.
He would do anything to make the movie. That's where the inspiration comes from. That's why every filmmaker needs to know about Orson Welles. And
even the sad part about his story is obviously after Citizen Kane, he never really reached that level of success, at least for a long time, because of, like you said, William Randolph Hearst, kind of like ruining his reputation, and then his next movie bombed. I actually like his next movie, The Magnificent Ambersons.
Well, his next film was also completely re-edited, and it's lost the original, which I think that would be the greatest film ever made.
And yeah, I mean, the movie's actually good,
film.
but it does feel lacking.
Yeah.
But it is good.
Talk about a film with a deep insight into humanity made by somebody who's like 28.
Yeah.
Wow, that movie's crazy.
I
Magnificent Ambersons.
Yeah, and there are other movies, classics that people love from him, like Touch of Evil,
or is Shakespeare. I mean, that's where he came, like Macbeth and Othello and Chimes at Midnight.
The Stranger. A lot of people know that movie.
Stranger's great.
Yeah, and The
Third Man. As an actor, he was successful, like The Third Man.
Yeah, he was. The Third Man, Jane Eyre. The Third Man's probably my favorite movie for him, even though he didn't direct it.
Carol Reed.
But it's sad because as a director, as a filmmaker, he never really reached that level of success. But that didn't stop him from making great films.
I think it was almost a necessary evil because there's something so timeless about the way he made films. Because the way he made films was as if he had the technology we have today. Othello was made over a period of 4 years. It was shot in like 7 different countries, like Spain and Ireland and England and all over Europe. That there are scenes where they, like someone gets slapped and then them getting slapped. Like the first shot is in Spain and then them getting slapped. The shot of them and the reaction shot is like in Ireland. It's like.
Wow.
The way that he thought of it, that's perfect. Let's fly. Got a plane fly.
3 more months. Get the shot.
Yeah, and he made that film and he finished it. And it has some audio syncing issues, but man, that movie's good.
It's good. I've seen it. Yeah. Good. Othello.
And Chimes at Midnight. Like, so he's inspiring because he shows that no matter what, if you have the passion to do something, if you have the drive to accomplish that there is a way to do it. And he showed that. He really did. I mean, that's why I always find inspiration in that story,
Yeah, I mean, more than any other filmmaker I can think of, dude. Like, because he basically got screwed over by Hollywood. And he didn't let that stop him from making fantastic movies,
Yeah.
And he kept working. And like you said, it's not like he was just like a bum. Like, he was a successful actor. He did a lot of successful work as an actor, and he taught at USC and stuff like that. And so,
So that's why, to go back to
Mank.
Thanks, Mank, for sucking.
The problem with Mank is that it doesn't capture Orson Welles well in terms of like. It makes him look like the villain, and he's a very one-dimensional character.
You said you laughed, right?
Yeah, all right. So the ending...
We need to just, every time we mention him, just cut back to that.
So the ending, so there's this medicine cabinet that Mank is not supposed to be drinking from, that they keep setting up in the movie.
What was that?
Right? And then, whatever. He has to go to the hospital every time he does it, whatever. So then... It's all
but they put it in the room.
Yeah, it's still there.
That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Right?
I don't know. Maybe they explained it. Anyways, it's there. So then Orson Welles is mad or whatever for some reason at Mank, I guess, because
Well, he wants the screenwriting credit.
Yeah.
Because according to the movie, Orson Welles just walks in the room and is like, oh, by the way, I don't want you to have credit because I'm an egomaniac that all I want is credit.
He wanted to take Herman Mankiewicz out of the picture, like getting credit, which isn't true, like you said. But so he goes in the room and then he's like, I don't know, he's like, you drink too much. And he's like, and he like throws the medicine cabinet to the fireplace.
And it was comical.
And then Mank has like no reaction to it. And it's like, and I was like, wait, was that supposed to be dramatic?
Yeah.
That was anything but dramatic.
And
but, that's how the movie ends.
Yeah. And let's just get this straight. If Orson Welles this needs to be refuted. If it's true that he didn't have to do with the script and he just wanted writing credit and he stole it, then why did Orson Welles put his directing credit next to Gregg Toland's? He did not give himself even his own title card for directing. Mm-hmm. He shared it with the cinematographer. That's something
debunks the story of
because that alone, I don't know any other director that's ever done that. Ever. Maybe obviously someone's probably done it, but I don't know. I've never seen that. Every time a director directs a movie, they get written and directed by or directed by if they didn't write it. Orson Welles shared that credit with the cinematographer because he knew how indebted he was. Because that's the thing too. Orson Welles was not just this genius that was able to do everything. He was able to see, he found Gregg Toland because he loved his work. So what I'm getting at is he was not just this egomaniac. He shared a directing credit, which is something that does not happen.
Yeah, like you said, did that ever happen at that point?
Yeah, and yet you get this film made about this guy that sucks. That is,
he's not a very likable character.
He's not interesting.
I don't really care about him. I can't relate to him, and he's not super interesting. Yeah. So it's like, and it's like a 2.5 hour movie. I'm like, so bored.
And then every time we get Orson Welles, the guy did a good job on his voice, but as an actor, whatever.
He was okay. No, he wasn't. It wasn't the actor's fault. It was the way that they wrote him. You know,
he just throws it out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like I said, they make him a one-dimensional villainous character, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. They're doing it in Mank's perspective, kind of thing. But it's like even in that way, it doesn't work. If you're
the guy died before he could say anything. Yeah. He never defended this.
Yeah, so it's like it's not fair to use that argument, which I've heard on YouTube. Like, oh, it's in his perspective, so it's not supposed to be accurate. It's like, that's kind of honky. But like I said, the only things about the movie that I liked was that it looked good. The music was really good because the music sounded like.
Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah, it sounded like Bernard Herrmann or like a copyrighted score from that time period, but it was all original. So the music was really good.
And we should bring this up. The fact that Citizen Kane was the beginning for Bernard Herrmann, right? The greatest composer,
Hitchcock, Scorsese.
Yeah, the greatest film composer in history, possibly. And also, the editor was the director of Sound of Music and West Side Story, right? Yeah. So those are just two examples. The guy knew how to pick talent. He knew how to find the right people. He knew to stick with the right people. Even Joseph Cotten as an actor.
Yeah, love Joseph Cotten.
So there's something about what he did with that film. It's a testament to having a vision.
Having the right support system to make that vision come true.
Yeah.
And sticking to what you want. In spite of, people telling you to change this and do that.
It's famous that Orson Welles used low angles. He built ceilings.
No,
people never built ceilings on sets before Citizen Kane, for the most part, except for a few like John Ford films. But most of the time, they never put a ceiling in because why would you spend the money when you just need 4 walls or 2? Orson Welles wanted low angles, so they built ceilings on the sets. Also, they dug holes in the ground to get those low angles.
Yep.
And the lenses he used, like 18 millimeter wide lenses.
Yeah.
Right? It gave a style, something that Hollywood did not usually have, like stylized film, That was not a thing. They didn't have A24 back then.
Yeah, it was very standard, at that time. Obviously there were good movies before Citizen Kane, but Citizen Kane, there was never a Citizen Kane kind of movie.
Yeah, and the deep
character
focus.
study drama in this way,
Yep, like this, like if you see how my hand is out of focus back here. Citizen Kane, most films have that. Citizen Kane made most shots in the film where you could see everything. You could see the background all the way. They used special techniques to get even farther focus that wasn't possible without special effects. They used miniatures and very creative shots, like the shot that goes Marion Davies' character in the film. I think her name's Susan. I forgot. It goes above this building and through this sign and then into the window, and it crossfades into a real set and goes down to her. We'll show that, I guess, on the edit. But it's just so cool. The opening shot and sequence. I mean, the film, it's a drama, but it's told in such a creative way. And that's the inspiration. So I'm like, how do you make a movie about Citizen Kane and the movie itself is boring and uncreative?
Because nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's not, his story wasn't interesting enough to be told on film, in my opinion. Yeah, like maybe a short film, but like a 2.5 hour movie, like I said, it was just the same things happening over and over again. It's like,
yeah,
and nothing's
laying in
interesting.
bed, getting drunk,
flirting with girls,
and then remembering some
studios.
random thing about Hollywood.
Yeah, and then going on the phone with Orson Welles. That was it.
What a disgrace.
So yeah,
Mank.
Most people really, really liked Mank that I've talked to. Surprisingly, I don't know why, but it's not Rakesh. But
We see him. Man.
it's it's die no. So I mean, you can like whatever you want, like, but
No, you can't. Let's be honest. Just kidding.
I mean, this is the reason why we didn't enjoy the movie. Those are the basic reasons, and why we feel like it doesn't do Orson Welles justice, and we feel like his story is very important to be told and remembered for all time, because he is like the pinnacle of like filmmaking, honestly, especially for at the time. So yeah, Mank.
Don't watch it, or do, just to torture yourself. But watch Citizen Kane first. That's my
Listen to the score and watch the end.
Oh yeah, listen to the score on Spotify.
The score is really good.
And
like,
David Fincher, if you want to be on the podcast, you're welcome to. We're your biggest fans.
David Fincher's autistic. Josh, literally.
Oh, also, okay, I just need to bring this up. Okay. Rakesh wanted me to bring this up. So we were doing some tests on the new Apple Pro display. It's like a 6K monitor. It's cost like $5,000. It's stupid. But it looks, it's very clear. Like it shows the image, what it really looks like. And we were watching Mank on there, right? This is a movie probably shot, I forgot, I think Rakesh told me. It's shot on an Ari or, one of Red Komodo. Was it Red Komodo? Okay, Red something. It's shot on a very good camera. The Komodo is a cheap one. So we watched this on the 6K monitor on Netflix, and man, they really destroyed this film, dude. The compression. Why? Why do they compress? I mean, if I directed that movie and I saw what it looked like, I would be so depressed, man. I would kill myself.
Medicine cabinet. You throw the medicine cabinet.
I would turn into Orson Welles and Mank. Yeah. What a disgrace, man. You can see, it would be interesting to show it. I mean, it's soft. It's the backgrounds are muddy, and the edges have like a digital kind of distortion. It's just not good. Why not give us Blu-ray quality on Netflix?
Right. No. Yeah, you're right. It always looks compressed. There's like noise.
Yeah, we're paying a subscription for the best quality on Netflix, right? The 4K Ultra. What's the point? What is this? What kind of sick people do that?
Sick.
Change your software.
Kill yourselves.
I want full resolution, man. I don't want a compressed image. I mean, we can't go to the theaters anymore. Give us something, man. I want something on there. That's beside the point. I did want to bring that up though. Hashtag Netflix sucks. We're tagging Netflix.
That's what we're talking about next. So
yeah, we're tagging Netflix on our Twitter post, and you guys are going to pay for this. But we want David Fincher. Okay. We want you to see this. We want something changed. We want Mank to look good. We're not going to watch it again, but we do want it to look good. For anyone that does journey into that film somehow. Mank
is
who's scrolling on Netflix and they're like, Mank, that looks good.
It's an older movie. Mank. Yeah, it was a very different movie for Fincher to make, because his movies are usually very
boring,
modern. So boring,
annoying.
They're usually very modern. So it was interesting to see him make like a period piece, and like I said, his style was still in the movie, which I thought, all right, that's impressive. Like that's it. Nothing happens. The best part about the movie was like the opening credits, honestly.
Oh yeah,
because they're like Wizard of Oz. kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it was cool. It was in Victorville. That's where I grew up, kind of. So I always, when I read about that, I was like, man, they wrote Citizen Kane like right near where I live. That's cool.
Mank.
Citizen Kane.
My idol. Mank.
Highly recommend. Citizen Kane, 10 out of 10. Mank, yeah.
5 out of 10.
Let's skip out on it. All right. Well, that's our episode of Totally Not a Podcast. I hope you really enjoyed that.
That was
show.
Mank. Don't watch it.
Come on.
Totally